right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac, not coming to you from home. It is a bit of a disaster here. I am house sitting, dog sitting, and the internet crapped out on me. So it's been a bit of a kerfluffle. And they gave me a monitor, Neil, but it doesn't have HDMI. It's got that whole old school plug-in with a bunch of
who gave you a monitor? Ones? Like the old folks home gave you a monitor?
Yeah, the people who I'm house sitting for. They're like, oh, yeah, we've got a monitor. It's a freaking TV that's like 12 years old, so it doesn't take HDMI, and my computers don't take that plug-in. So I was trying to find they're like, oh, we've got a converter. I'm not sure where it is. So I was scrambling to get that, and here we are. But we've got football tonight. And fortunately, we've spoiled everybody by starting at 7:15 most of these times.
That's right.
We still got 59 minutes until kickoff here.
Yeah,
so
plenty of time.
No harm, no foul. And I think we've got about 20 minutes in the bank for all these extra early moments we've had here. But yeah, we've got a good one. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about OwnersBox, which is sponsoring the show tonight. We've got a few other fun things. But Neil, what the heck happened in NFL today? I kind of stopped watching. Apparently, Achane is pretty good.
Achane is pretty good. Yeah, that was, not totally shocking, but it is crazy how good his efficiency has been so far this year. And it continues today. Like he didn't get that many carries. He just did a lot with the few carries that he had. Mostert also got into the end zone. So that was good to see that Mostert is still involved there, still getting his carries. But the biggest thing going on right now is the Vikings are down 7, 40 seconds left. It is 4th and 1. I'm just tracking it on the ESPN app right now, but not feeling too good about it. But, I can at least still dream that the Vikings will pull off an upset against Kansas City.
All right. Well, good luck on that. I want to remind everybody that, of course, we are brought to you by OwnersBox. If you guys have not yet signed up there, a couple things that they're going to give to you. One, sign up coming through our link below us here in the YouTube script description. That's key. You come in through our link, it'll still ask you for a promo code. You don't need one. As long as you've clicked on our link, you've been tagged with our referral code. When you put in $10, they're going to give you a $5 lightning round ticket, a $5 regular contest ticket. They're going to match you up to $500 on your first deposit, and you're going to get a promo code for 7 days. It was 30, but now it's just 7 days. Stochastic maximum Sims package. You're going to want to get in on that. You guys dilly-dally on these things, and you don't get them. It was a full month during week 1. Now it's just a week. We're going to talk Bet 365. That used to be bet $1, get 365. Now it's bet 5, get 150. Still a pretty good deal, but not what it was 10 days ago, 7 days ago, 4 days ago. You guys are in trouble now. You got to move on these things. Neil, I'm assuming we got inactives. I saw Jawan Jennings did not have an injury designation, so I'm assuming he is active.
I know Eli Mitchell is out. That was one of the bigger ones.
We may not have. Don't we usually get them right around now? Let me go look.
We got them already. We got the inactives.
News God always takes care of us.
Yeah, the biggest inactive news was that Elijah Mitchell is out. We've got all of the main stars for the Niners are active. We got Debo in there, Ayuk's in there. No big surprises in terms of inactives for the Niners. All of the Dallas, main components are healthy. So I think we're looking at a, pretty standard vanilla kind of slate here.
Indeed we are. Peyton Hendershot is out for Dallas. That is no surprise. He didn't play in the last game. And then, you know who the emergency third quarterback is tonight?
I do not know who the emergency third quarterback is.
Former 49er, Trey Lance.
Trey Lance is out. He's out tonight.
The note says he's the emergency third quarterback. So that means the other two quarterbacks get injured. They've gone back to the third quarterback rule. They did away with it for like 15 years. Okay. This thing came out in the early 90s. You could dress 3 quarterbacks. If the first 2 got hurt, you could bring in the third one. But then if he got hurt, you were kind of out of luck at that
Interesting.
point.
So even though he's inactive, he can still play if the starters get hurt.
Only if the other quarterbacks get hurt. And then there's some rule about how far into the game it is, or there's like some other caveat as well.
Sure.
So remember me? Hey guys, Trey Lance, 49er draft pick. Good times.
Vikings lost.
Oh, Neil, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean it's not some big surprise. Like it is what it is. But they were driving there at the end. Looks like, man, they got down to Kansas City territory.
All right. Well, that means we're going to start getting in more and more viewers here. We've got about 500. Let's hit that like button. I've got some team free money EMac head-to-heads there in the DK lobby, $1 username EMac. Check those out. I don't know that I'll be able to add any more. I'm trying not to do anything on this computer that is going to utilize RAM, because that seems to be an issue here. I have my other computer set up over here, but it's just kind of spinning at the moment, and doesn't seem to matter if I'm plugged into their Wi-Fi here or the internet, or if I'm just going through Wi-Fi. We may as well be on dial-up. I don't.
That's rough.
Deep breaths.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna get there, Mac. You know, when you were a child in like your 50s and 60s, you didn't even have internet. So like, you got to get used to your living in the moment kind of younger mentality.
Yes, that is very true. We did not have the interweb. We barely had newspapers, and where I grew up, newspapers were it was in the middle of the state of Washington. So the news would be printed in either Seattle or Spokane, and then they'd have to drive it over. So the papers would more often than not be missing about half of the baseball and basketball box scores.
Oh no.
This morning. Yeah, it was that kind of old school.
I never experienced that.
Yes, once upon a time. But we've got now the dog that I'm taking care of is making noise behind me. This is one hell of a day. I'm thoroughly enjoying this, Neil. Thoroughly enjoying.
Are you in Florida right now?
No, I am. Okay. I am in the Midwest. Shocking.
Oh,
so okay. Yeah, it's
welcome.
Yeah, it's a little south from where you are. But let's run on through here. We'll go team by position, starting with the visitors first. Here you've got the Dallas Cowboys. They have just shy of a 21 implied point total here. We have Dak Prescott barely inside the top 25 for the full week of quarterbacks, and that includes 4 teams being on bye. Neil, rough go for Dak, or is it that the 49ers defense is really that good? I think it's
that the 49ers defense is really that good.
Yeah. So 49ers have allowed just 4 touchdowns this year through the air. Matt Stafford is the only quarterback. He had 307 yards. He's the only one that's thrown for more than 270. Prescott has yet to throw for 270, but the Dallas Cowboys, they won 40-0 in week 1, and then last week 38-3. Didn't really need to get to him. How are you feeling about Prescott today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-game slate. Like, I wouldn't be attacking this 49ers defense with Dak on a full slate, but on a 1-game slate, he's going to be part of my plans. He's probably going to be in around half my lineups, I would guess. We currently have him projected for 7% captain ownership, 6% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. Looks better for us in the utility. We have Dak at 38% ownership, 41% chance of being optimal in the utility. So I prefer to play Dak in the flex, but you can clearly play him anywhere. He's not really an elite rusher. He has some rushing upside, but anywhere that I'm playing Dak, I'm going to want to have at least 1 pass catcher paired with him. And if I have him in the captain spot, I'd prefer to have 2.
All right. That, I think, is absolutely fair. Those were the same rules I set. We'll see if I can actually upload my lineups. At this point, I'm at least running my cash game lineup and everything, so I have a viable lineup. But that's not what I want to have in all my tournaments, boosters, quintuple ups, etc. tonight. We've done this before. Had a glorious meltdown. I think it was actually with the 49ers as well about 3 years ago. Whatever. It's only money, but that is a little annoying. So if you see me turning from time to time over here, I'm trying to get this laptop back online to upload my stuff. Annoying. It's just annoying. But let's get to running backs here. So no running back has gone for more than 52 yards against Dallas this season. No individual running back here, but they are going against Christian McCaffrey. Pardon me, I've reversed that. No running back has gone for more than 52 yards against the 49ers. My apologies. Okay. For Dallas here, you have seen Tony Pollard get a fair amount of work, but then it looks like his snap count's a little off. They've actually done a good job of limiting his workload for the most part when the games were blowouts, and they've had 2 blowout games here. So it's one of those where you can't really look at his trailing stats and infer what they're going to be tonight, or can you? Because he's going against an amazing defense here, which could be tough. So going back all the way through last year, including the playoffs, let's see, 7 running backs have rushed for 52 or more yards against San Francisco. So basically their last, 25 games, they've only had 7 running backs go for more than 52 yards, and that group averaged 59.6. 49ers don't give up a lot. We saw this same matchup in the divisional round last year. Tony Pollard and Elliott had 16 combined carries for 48 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal here. Interestingly, the 49ers are ranked 23rd in terms of rush DVOA so far this year, which I don't understand how that could be the case, given how good they have been. But the so far this year, 23rd in terms of rush DVOA. I'm not really reading too much into that. I still think that this is as good of a defense as you're going to find anywhere in the league. It's not a great spot for. I mean, both of these defenses are elite, like two of the better defenses in the league. The Niners, in terms of pass DVOA, which I think is kind of more relevant than rush DVOA generally, we have the Cowboys 1st overall, the Niners 6th overall. But then in terms of rush DVOA, it does appear to be like slightly better for running backs just based on DVOA. Again, it's early in the season, small sample size. I think it's going to regress, but currently we have Dallas 12th in terms of rush DVOA, the Niners 23rd in rush DVOA. So in both cases, a little bit better in terms of pass DVOA than rush DVOA. I think it's a little bit noisy and just a small sample size issue. Over time, I think that these are going to be they're going to show themselves to be 2 of the best defenses in the NFL. So I don't know that I want to read too much into that.
That is definitely fair enough here. As we look to the RB2s, because we have to consider this going through Showdown, Rico Dowdle does look like he's going to be the running back 2, but he's really going to need to have something happen to Pollard before he's going to see much of a workload. At this point, Deuce Vaughn is also seeing a little bit of work. Now, Dowdle has the receiving touchdown. So you can't even really look at Vaughn and say, oh, he's the pass catching guy, because he actually has some carries. So it's one of those where we'll have to see what happens here. Vaughn may get a couple schemed looks for him, but Dowdle's, if anything happens to Pollard, that's more Dowdle's territory here. And then, just to muddy the waters, Hunter Lupke scored in the last game. My notes say, think of him as the human victory cigar. Remember Scotty Williams back in those Michael Jordan Bulls days when he'd get off the bench and into the game, human victory cigar, right? That's kind of what Lupke is. Technically, he has returned the only kickoff so far this season for Dallas. They have just 1 return, but Kevontae Turpin is actually listed as the punt returner and kick returner, which takes us into the wide receivers here. You have Jalen Tolbert, 9 targets already this season. That's 3 times as many as he had last year. It's a big change, even though it's only 9. Remember how he was, what was he, like a 3rd-round draft pick, how he was inactive so many times. You've got CeeDee Lamb leading the team with 30 targets. 4 receivers have gone for at least 75 yards against the 49ers. However, those occurred in 2 games. So a pair in each game. The Rams got there, I think it was with 2, and then I can't remember the other team. But point being, you may be able to get a little bit against the 49ers through the air. Brandon Cooks missed week 2, sprained his MCL, so he's still favoring that a little bit. He's 30 years old, but if, as expected, he's active, and then we should consider him to be on the field about 60% of the time. And then Michael Gallup, 13 targets over the last 2 weeks. Gallup is in my catch lineup here. He could disappear, but my hope is he's the one the defense ignores.
Gallup 2nd on the team in terms of routes run. So CeeDee Lamb, 126 routes run on the season. Gallup, 110. And then there's a pretty big drop-off to Jake Ferguson at 80. So, Gallup looks pretty elite. Obviously, we had Cooks miss 1 game. He would be up there as well. They'd look pretty similar, I think, in terms of routes run if you add in that extra game for Cooks. But, Gallup has been right there. 12% target share looks like tied for 4th on the team. He's actually behind Jake Ferguson and slightly behind Brandon Cooks in terms of target share. But I think given the route participation, given that he is still, top 4 on the team in terms of target share, looks great here for Michael Gallup.
And then that brings us to tight ends here. Neil, Jake Ferguson, 25 targets, 2nd most on the team. Remember Dalton Schultz? He made some waves on quite a few island games. You've got Ferguson that's in the mix. Peyton Hendershot out with an ankle, so that means Luke Schoonmaker is going to be the main backup. Last week he had 3 targets. That was 3 of his 5 total targets on the season. let's see, nothing else to really add on him.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought about putting him in my cash lineup. Didn't need to go there.
I think in large field GPPs, certainly somebody you can play. They get all of these tight ends involved. Luke Schoonmaker, he's at 10% ownership, so it's not like he's going completely unowned. But yeah, he is now. It's a little bit more condensed without having Peyton Hendershot in there. Now it's basically just you're playing Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker. I guess Sean McKeon could get in there, but I think it's likely to be a little bit more condensed to those two. Ferguson, as you said, looks great here. Ferguson has been one of the most active pass catchers for Dallas. He, as I said, has run 80 routes on the year, 54% route participation. He has 24 targets on the year through 4 games. That's really pretty solid. 6 targets per game for a tight end. We'll take that all day. So I think, Ferguson going to be one of the better plays on the slate. And then I do think that Schoonmaker is going to be one of the better values on the slate as well.
All right, and then that takes us to our special teams here. San Francisco allowing about 2 sacks per game. While Purdy's been under center, he has a 6% sack rate, so kind of around league average. Really, the only knock we have against Purdy is that he does everything else exceptionally well, especially considering he was Mr. Irrelevant. On the turnover side, the 49ers have 1 lost fumble, no interceptions given up. Cowboys have 10 takeaways, 7 interceptions, 3 fumbles. So they're second on the season. Dallas Cowboy defense, pretty good, a little banged up. No Trevion Diggs. And then a couple of their other guys, Micah Parsons? I'm blanking on the name. Their other good defender, he's kind of banged up a little bit, but should be a go tonight here. That takes us over to the 49ers. So Brock Purdy, multiple touchdowns in 3 of his 4 games when we include his rushing touchdown last week. So he had 1 passing, 1 rushing, but otherwise he's had multiple passing touchdowns in the other games, 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's completed 72.3% of his passes. He's in the top 3 for QBR, which is that not so new ESPN version of the quarterback rating. He is 3rd in yards per attempt and yards per completion. That's pretty good. Dallas has not allowed any opposing quarterback to go for more than 190 yards. Neil, you ready to see who they faced besides me and you? Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Josh Dobbs, and Mac Jones. That's not exactly a lineup of heavy hitters there.
Yeah. Dobbs has been pretty good this year. He's been a little bit of a surprise, but yeah.
So how are you feeling about Purdy as a potential captain?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about Purdy as a captain or as a flex. He actually, I'm trying to figure out why he looks so much better than Dak in our tools in terms of captain optimal. So we have, as I said earlier, we have Dak at just 6% chance of being the optimal captain. We have Purdy with a 10% chance of being the optimal captain at 9% ownership. So we actually have some positive leverage there on Brock Purdy. Looks really good. And then also positive leverage in the utility, 41% ownership, 44% chance of being optimal. Purdy looks like a great play anywhere you want to play him, whether you want to play him in the flex or in the captain spot. Similar to Dak, like he's shown a little bit of rushing upside, but he's certainly not an elite rusher. I'm typically going to want to pair him with at least 1 pass catcher. He does have, interestingly, he has 3 rushing touchdowns on his career and just 9 games started. So that's pretty solid, but only 37 yards. I think that I'm always going to be pairing Brock Purdy with at least 1 pass catcher and preferably 2 when he is in the captain spot, just like Dak for me. Are you playing him any differently than Dak?
No, I do have that rule set for both. I did include McCaffrey as one of his pass catchers. I did not include Pollard as a pass catcher. I
did include Pollard, but maybe I need to look closer.
That was more, I figured I'd be getting a reasonable amount of him. Normally I would have included him, but I couldn't quite get there tonight. So, and I can't tweak it because I'm still trying to figure out if I can get my lineups uploaded here.
All right. So Pollard, 47% route participation on the season, 17 targets for Pollard. I think you could include him. I guess it's totally fine to not include him also, but I don't think I'm going to change it. I think that's enough activity that I'm still interested as a potential pass catcher for Dak.
Yeah, I would agree. I may be putting my thumb on the scale too much, but I also did make sure that I went through and had 10 lineups that had Pollard in the captain. So I'm kind of going that route. And then, so as a trade-off, I said, well, because I have him in so many lineups that way, I would prefer to not have him in all those lineups with Dak and sort of play for a different take here. So let's
All
see
right.
if this is going to work. Will this work?
You can do it.
It's
going to work.
Try to upload here. This is, and then I'm going to step away from this computer. I'm just going to shut it down because at this point it is the bane of my existence. My apologies, everybody, but I have done more shows in more places, I think, than anybody else this year.
It's been
And
impressive.
considering I'm on 2 shows a week. Okay, that looks like it's mostly okay. All right.
Well, you're doing.
Let that. I am just now closing down that whole laptop. We let it ride. All right. I'm 100% focused on.
Okay, well, you're 100% focused. I'm going to step away for like 20 seconds while I find how to plug in my computer. So I'll be right back in about 20 seconds. I'll leave you for a second.
Perfect. That's not a problem because I have things to talk about. So, hey, while Neil is away and, we're going to have some fun here. Reminder, you guys can sign up for the Stochastic avatar contest. Well, signing up is a bit of a misnomer. All you have to do is go to stochastic.com/avatar, download that Stochastic avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice, and then finish first, second, or third in any contest. No 100-way ties for Showdown. You really need to be first, second, or third, and you will get 30 days of Stochastic Premium. I'll drop the link to the other rules in there, but essentially what you need to do is take a photo, a screenshot, if you will, of your victory showing that Stochastic avatar. Tweet that to Stochastic HOF, and then we will get you squared away. You can win one of these per calendar year, but that's a pretty good deal. Basically, that's a $200 deal if you want to get that Max Sims package. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. All righty, Neil. We've talked about the 49ers. It feels like we're missing someone. We are missing Elijah Mitchell.
We are.
You know who we're not missing? Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, I think, played in 140% of snaps this season. Does that feel about right?
140% of snaps. Yeah, that sounds about right.
It feels about right. 80% last week. Would have thought they got to give this guy a break at some point, but apparently not. He already has a 5-touchdown game this year. He just continues to absolutely crush. If you guys listen to Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks, which you should be over on the Odd Shopper channel. He usually puts that out on Fridays. That is his NFL version. He said to include a McCaffrey anytime touchdown in your parlays. He said, just go wild with it. He goes, until he doesn't score, ride the streak. I'm paraphrasing for him, but hey, he quoted Loverboy of all things. I always he quotes some of the oldest songs. Loverboy is like 1983, Working for the Weekend. I think it was. Yeah. Might have even been 1980. I'm not sure. It was a while ago though. I remember when it was on radio. We used to have AM only here, or where I grew up, we had AM only. It was a hard scrabble life.
Sounds like it.
What do you want to do with CMC? Are you making any lineups without him? And is he your most popular captain option /MVP/multiplier?
I haven't run any lineups yet, but I believe he will be. Like he just projects so much better than everybody else on the slate. I imagine I'm going to end up with a ton. He projects for nearly 5 points better than the next best player on the. Oh, actually, I was looking at the fantasy cruncher. He projects for more than 6, nearly 7 points better than the second best player on the entire slate for us. Yeah, McCaffrey is just a lock here. Like I'm not a lock. Nobody's ever a lock, but McCaffrey is going to be in a ton of my lineups. We have McCaffrey optimal 74% of the time. So yeah, they're 26% of the time he doesn't end up in the optimal lineup. He's 11,800, so it kind of makes sense. Like you do need him to do quite a bit to pay off that price tag. I expect it's going to be a low scoring game. If McCaffrey doesn't score a touchdown, it's certainly possible that he is not optimal at 11,800, but I imagine I'm going to have him in probably close to that, like probably around 3/4 of my lineups. I would guess that I have, I'm not guessing. I'm going to make sure that I don't have him in every single lineup because there is obviously a lot of volatility in football, and at that price tag, like he needs to do more than anybody else to pay it off.
So if I was able to get the things loaded that I want to, I have him in about 80% of my lineups, probably because he's in my main lineup, probably 90, 95% of my cash in play in some form or fashion. spoiler alert, I think you need to play him as your captain / MVP if you're playing cash games, and then try to be a little bit different, I guess, elsewhere. Do you see anybody competing for him, like in a main lineup, a cash game 3-man head-to-head type lineup for that multiplier slot?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, keeping in mind he's going against a very stout defense too. This is right. This is a good test for both teams tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to see the types of lineups you could create. I don't really do cash lineups, and at this point, it's too late for me to just run like the optimals. But I would imagine, given the difference in projection, he's just going to be that guy regardless. I mean, he is significantly more expensive than the next most expensive player on the slate. So, like, maybe there's a lineup out there where you put Pollard in the captain spot, and then you can fit in better players all around him. But yeah, I would anticipate that he is just the cash game lock in the captain spot.
Yeah. All righty, let's take a peek here. We have Jordan Mason. That would be the rookie. Last week, Mason played 15% of the snaps, and McCaffrey played 85. I mentioned 80, but it was 85. So they essentially split those. Kyle Juszczyk was on the field for a season-high 65% of the snaps. He'll probably be there 50 to 65%. Obviously tends to be more blocking. We'll talk about Kittle in just a second. But Juszczyk, he has just 3 carries and 1 target this season. I believe that target came last week, and one of the carries may have as well. So that's actually down from where we normally see him. He usually, last year, he averaged about 1, almost 2 touches per game. But I set the over-under at 1.5 as the realistic probability of his touches, and I'm slightly leaning for the over. But now that they've got McCaffrey, we haven't talked about Debo yet. They've got red zone options. Kittle, right? I know they're covered. And you don't need that sneaky Kyle Juszczyk 15-yard touchdown like we saw in the Super Bowl.
That's it. You can do the same thing except with Debo instead of Kyle Juszczyk. Like it's really like they have so many playmakers. They don't really need to do it. I will say he still did run 15 routes last week. So like even though he only had the 1 target, that's 68% route participation last week. That is pretty strong. So he's certainly viable for the Showdown slate. He's one of those guys. I play him all the time. I don't know that he's ever actually paid off for me on a Showdown slate. I feel like it's like come close, but he'll usually have a couple touchdowns per year. So you're kind of hoping for that touchdown for Kyle Juszczyk. I don't think 3 receptions would get it done, and he doesn't usually even see 3 targets. So he's in play, but he is a little bit of a thin play. Like to be clear, he's not a sure thing to touch the ball at all.
Yeah, the addition of McCaffrey sort of quashed the Debo wide back role per se, and Juszczyk. I mean, but why wouldn't you prefer Christian McCaffrey over those guys? And that's nothing against those guys. They're pretty good at what they do. It's just kind of interesting here. Looking at moving on to wide receiver here. So Samuel and Ayuk tend to play the vast majority of the snaps. The 49ers have been running a fair amount of 2 wide receiver sets. Jawan Jennings was not active last week with the shin issue. He is active tonight. So that means we will likely see I didn't see him listed as inactive, but Willie Snead would be my guess that he's not going to play. He didn't get offensive snaps in the first 3 games. He only appeared last week. I'm assuming that was because Jennings was out. Rookie Ronnie Bell is probably going to be on the field for around 15 plays, would be just sort of looking at his trend. He did get his first career touchdown on Thursday Night Football, if we remember. That was against the Giants in week 3. Remember. And then Ray McLeod, and we're going to circle back to the other 2 guys. But Ray McLeod caught both his targets last week for 22 yards, played 13 offensive snaps. He also kind of filled in there for Jennings. He does get offensive snaps in addition to being the dual return man there. They do try to get him on the field, but with the full complement of everybody, he could get, a look or 2. But again, we're looking at a pretty crowded, even without Eli Mitchell, a pretty crowded offense here. That circles us back to Debo and Ayuk. Debo was not targeted last week. He was dealing with the sore knee. He did get 3 carries for 6 yards. In week 3, he had a season-high 12 targets, though that was the game that Ayuk was out. I think Ayuk has the edge. I mean, are you a little concerned about Debo being banged up? How he got through? I know I wasn't watching the game, so I don't know if those were like the little shovel pass, or like the jet sweep kind of thing where it's like it could go as a pass, it could go as a carry, but he had 3 of them for 6 yards and no actual targets.
I think that's a fluky thing.
Because game log watcher here gets a little nervous about that.
I'm not nervous about it because Deebo Samuel has run 110 routes on the year. That's 91% route participation. That is like the elite of the elite. He only ran 18 routes last week to Ayuk and Kittle running 19. I'm not really concerned about that 1 route difference. I'm just looking at for the season, 110 routes. Second on the team is George Kittle with 93. So 17 more routes run through 4 games than anybody else on the Niners. I think it was just a fluke that he did not do more last week. I think he's out there. He's Deebo Samuel. They're gonna, hopefully he's a squeaky wheel. I haven't heard anything about him mention anything, but wouldn't surprise me. He's good. He's a baller out there. I think I'm not worried about Deebo here. He's elite.
All right. And then how are you feeling about Ayuk?
Ayuk, I like as well. We actually have Ayuk projected slightly better than Debo. If I'm looking at, we have Ayuk projected slightly better. He's a little bit more expensive too. I have no issue playing either of them. I think they kind of are who we know they are. Like they're just both like elite receivers in an offense that's full of elite playmakers. You can't play them all. I'm going to be mixing and matching who I'm playing here. I think my preference, actually, let me take a look at the ownership because that's going to determine my preference. And it's very close there. We have Ayuk slightly higher owned than Debo, with Debo being slightly cheaper and Ayuk being slightly higher owned. I think my preference is to go to Debo here. And we have Debo slightly under owned in the captain spot, 8% projected ownership, 9% chance of being optimal. In the util, we have him 34% projected ownership, 38% chance of being optimal. So we actually have positive leverage in both spots for Debo. We also have the same for Ayuk though. So my instinct is to prefer Debo. My guess is that I end up with more Debo, in part because I'm also leaving salary on the table. But we also have Ayuk with 11% projected captain ownership, 13% chance of being optimal in the captain, and then 37% util ownership, 42% chance of being optimal in the util. So even more positive leverage on Ayuk than Debo. But for me personally, because I'm leaving salary on the table, I'm trying to be unique. I'm going to get to more Debo than Ayuk.
All right. And the other thing that we want to remind everybody is you are not afraid to take chances on these Showdown slates here. Now, you did have, it was Showdown where you got your Millie victory, correct?
No. Showdown, I had a 4-way split in a Millie and like an 11-way split a couple years ago I had. And then, I don't think I won any last year. I got tied for third. What was your Millie in then? It was main slate in 2020 was my Millie.
Regular
week seven main slate. It was the COVID season where one of the games got flexed to Sunday night, and it was the Cardinals Seahawks game, and that game went off, and I needed it to, so it was pretty nice. If
I recall, Lockett, was that the Lockett game?
Lockett put up like 50 fantasy points, and then
like DeAndre 3 touchdowns or something. I think didn't the Seahawks win in overtime or something crazy like that?
The Seahawks won in, or maybe the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals won in overtime.
The Cardinals? Okay.
Yes, because
I know it went to overtime.
Because I know that DeAndre Hopkins had a reception with 50 seconds remaining in overtime to win me the Millie. So I got pretty lucky there.
All right. Wow, we have a lot of people watching. We have almost 1,300. Hit that like button. We would duly appreciate it. Mama Mac's going to watch this, and she's going to need to see at least 250 likes. We can get there. Very easily. Probably should get to 300.
Well, to be clear, your mom is going to watch this show after it's over, like not like having nothing on the line.
She watches most of them. She asked me to. I sent her all the links to the shows because she doesn't know how to find them otherwise, and then she watches them, and she's like, she says, well, and she critiques the hosts, so she critiques you as well. This is a former English teacher. She wrote the State of Washington Centennial play. She wrote that. She's a singer, musician, English teacher, librarian. So was coach of the Knowledge Bowl team.
I feel so much more pressure now, EMac. Now that I know that your mom is watching, critiquing, that's a lot of pressure on me.
You know who her fave was? T McBee. So be careful here. And she always thought it was funny that I called Nick my grandson. Because she's like, I only have grand dogs. I don't have any grandkids. But you know what? That he looks pretty nice. I would accept him. So, but yes, she will be watching. She says, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but I like when you make jokes and if you guys seem engaged and entertaining. So then she doesn't critique our knowledge. She's like, oh, you guys know way more than I do.
That's good to know.
But if you're dull and boring, she will give you notes. All righty. So Bet365. If you guys are in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, if you bet $5, come in through our link in the YouTube description below us here. Bet $5, you get 150. Yes, that changed from the Bet One, get 365 on Bet365 because that good deal is like a flash sale. When that pops up, you got to grab it. It's been there twice. We may get it for the beginning of NBA, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure because they didn't do it at the beginning of football. So they only spur this on every now and then. Perhaps it was because Kentucky just came online for sports wagering. But the other thing you need to remember is that in most states, you need to be 21 or older to wager. Kentucky, I do believe it is 18. But additionally, if you or anybody you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. So check that out. That is Bet365. All right, Neil. So we've talked about the wide receivers. Let's talk about the glorified sixth offensive lineman, also known as George Kittle. So here is fun with numbers. In weeks 2 and 4, he played on 95% of the snaps. 2 games, 95% of the snaps. How many targets do you think he had in those 2 games combined?
7.
4.
Ooh.
Yeah, big difference. Now, he did have in week 3 when Ayuk was out, he had 9. So pretty good game there. So he's on the field, he's walking. That's fine. They need him to block. He's awesome at it. He's fantastic. He is, hence why Purdy has all the time in the pocket. He hasn't thrown any interceptions, the great running game, etc. Kittle is like a luxury at this point. Think Gronk when he had trouble lift, that big brace on his arm, but he was still out there basically as the offensive lineman. That's kind of what Kittle is right now. He's not priced like that. He's priced like he's going to get 6 targets tonight. That makes things a little bit dicey. If we look at Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelley, and Braden Willis, they're the other tight ends. They don't have any targets this year. 0. Last year, Dwelley had 5 all year, including the playoffs. Tyler Kroft had 5. He's not on the team this year. And Warner had 2. So they had 12 targets. Kittle had all the rest. How do you want to proceed with Kittle? Is this a Kittle game? I don't know how to call these. There are people on Twitter that say, I know this is going to be a Kittle game. I don't hear them when it's not a Kittle game, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a Kittle game. What I do know is that he ran 19 routes last week, tied for the team lead. That was 86% route participation. As you said, only 1 target in that game. So to run 86% of the routes and only get 1 target. But again, that's also only 19 routes run. That is not a ton, not a huge number of routes. Anyway, I don't know. Kittle is one of those guys that is just totally unpredictable to me. Like he'll break out every once in a while. It's hard to see it coming because the usage looks about the same in terms of like I said, like routes run. But then all of a sudden, one game they'll remember they have him and start throwing the ball to Kittle a lot more. Maybe he'll score a touchdown. So I'm just going to rely on the tools to decide how much I want to play Kittle. In the tools, he looks approximately as owned as he should be. 5% captain ownership, 5% chance of being optimal in the captain, 25% util ownership, 25% chance of being optimal in the util. So we've got Kittle just looking like he is just as owned as he should be. I'm probably going to be playing it close to what the field is doing, having around 30% Kittle in my lineups. He's not going to make or break my day. He's 6,400. The price seems about right for Kittle. Like he's clearly probably the cheapest guy with like highest score on the slate kind of upside, I would say. I don't think Ferguson necessarily has that. I guess we have Cooks and Gallup, who I guess are kind of in that bucket as well. But yeah, I like the price tag for Kittle. He's going to be in somewhere between 20 and 30% of my lineups probably.
You know what happens after Fergie catches the ball?
This is going to be a bad joke. I already know
he
it.
Goes run in.
All right. approximately what I expected. I knew it was going to be a Fergie joke. I didn't know exactly what to expect.
There we go.
Not bad.
There we go. My work here is done. I think I can hang him up. You've got the rest of the show.
Right.
I've now got a 90-pound dog sitting at me because it is 5 o'clock here, or it's whatever. It's his dinner time, 6 o'clock. I've lost track.
It is 7 o'clock in the Midwest. So you're in the Midwest. So we're in the same time zone.
7
o'clock.
I've lost. It's my Fitbit's dead, so it's not working. My computer is still on East Coast time. It's a disaster. Someone was asking me, Ryan Nelson, EMac sold. He was asking, how much NFL wagering have you done? I've only been back in Virginia for 1 week of NFL, so I haven't really been able to wager, and it was for Monday Night Football only. So it was the Giants Seahawks game. So that was really the only one I've been able to wager on, sadly, because I have been bouncing around to other locales, mostly being in Florida. And then tonight, everything's just disaster. So I'm not wagering tonight because I'm lucky to at least sort of, I think, have my DFS lineups in. We'll see when the cards flip over if the upload worked. If not, I will be running a major train.
Oh, no.
Let's see. Where did we leave off? So we talked about Kittle. Oh, special teams. Dallas has 1 interception on the season, no fumbles. San Francisco has 5 picks, have not recovered any fumbles. The 49ers are averaging 2 sacks per game. Cowboys have allowed 6 sacks per game, which is the 5th fewest in the league. So again, both these defenses are really, really good, but both these offenses don't give up much in the way of sacks or turnovers. So it will be interesting to see. So far.
Last year, Dak Prescott threw 15 interceptions in 12 games started.
But you know what he didn't do? He cut his fumbles down. Wasn't he Mr. Butterfingers the 2 years prior to that? He hardly had any interceptions, but he had the double-digit fumbles lost, if I remember correctly.
Do I have that in front of me? I don't immediately see what his that sounds right to me, but I don't have the number in front of me.
I would go look it up on Pro Football Focus or Pro Football Reference, but I'm not going to any additional tabs on this crappy ass Spotify that I'm on right now. So we will just say that sounds close enough. Close enough. So that takes us to 18 minutes to go here, Neil. Do you have your lineups up? I was going to do a little screen share here and talk about the lineup generator.
14 fumbles in 2021 for Dak. So yeah. Okay. You should pull up the lineup generator. I do not have my lineups in, so I'm going to continue working on those. Actually, let me answer one question though. Sure. Michelle Watterson asked, random question, but I assume you'd want to avoid the duped lineups the simulator is generated in a GPP. Yeah, any lineup that is showing to have a ton of dupes, I would want to avoid. But you can usually, even within the generator, you can find lineups that are less duped. So yeah, I would avoid just in general. I don't want to play in large field GPPs. Lineups are going to be duped a ton.
All right. So I'm sharing the screen. We've got the lineup generator up here. This is a standalone package. You can get that for $14.95 per week. You get it for the main slate for both DraftKings and FanDuel, and then you get it for the 3 primetime games. I believe it also kicks out it has the London game as well. I have to double check that, but I think we are counting that as a primetime game for any of you that get up early enough to watch that one. You can get it for that. But the key thing is in this, we'll look at the let's do DraftKings Showdown here. But as we go in here, we can choose a variety of lineup types: chalky, balanced, contrarian. We're just going to pick all because we can then start to look at adjusting the game outcome. So what you're seeing here on this screen is it says, hey, what if the 49ers and the Cowboys each score 6 points higher than expected tonight? What if the Cowboys score six more and the 49ers score 6 less, or vice versa? You can pick those different outcomes, which will give you different game simulations, which you start to see 5-1, 4-2 builds. The other thing that's important to know about this is you can build up to 20 lineups at a time into the holding pen and export them, but you can build as many as you want. You can just put 20 in there at a time. If you don't like a lineup, you can discard it. If you like a lineup, you can keep it. Let's do a surprise one here. We'll take the Dallas scoring 6 more than expected and the 49ers scoring 6 less. So you can see right away a wonky lineup there. Luke Schoonmaker is our captain here. It's a 5-1. Now you've got Christian McCaffrey here, right? So people are worried about, oh my gosh, what if we have a whole bunch of overlap here? you're not really going to get it quite as, I mean, no more than usual in Showdown, because you can, build out a bunch of lineups here, and it's looking to try to make you mostly different from the field, unless you're building chalky. If you build chalky, you might end up with more dupes. But let's build out 20 lineups here. Let's look at this one and say, oh gosh, I'm worried about Deebo Samuel's game log. I don't want to play him there. You can swap him out there if you have enough funds left over. So it looks like we got about 8,700 here. I can put in Brandon Ayuk. Maybe I'm not a fan of George Kittle either, because I'm a little nervous about his role. So I could put in someone like Brandon Cooks, and then we just hit that button, and then I can save it. And then you can see that saved that lineup. We can go to see our view our portfolio. You can see who is there. No stacks in this one, but you can see for the main slides, you can see what the stack exposures are. But if you come down here and you say, I don't really like this lineup anymore, I don't want it, you can get rid of a lineup and then bring in another one. You can, even within this screen, you can still do adjustments on the players. So perhaps you again, didn't want Deebo. Maybe you wanted, let's see, we don't have enough for CeeDee Lamb, but we can put Ayuk back in that one. And you can see, there we go. And you can see what the overall lineup ownership is, etc. So you can see that one's super duper low. Why is that low? Well, we're playing for a different outcome in this game. Jake Ferguson's barely going to be owned at all, and Michael Gallup is relatively low as well. So there you go. That is the lineup generator for there. It does incorporate most of the same things that the Sims do. It looks for correlation. It look both in game and within teams. And it's then on the main slate, it's also looking for correlation, not just for your stacks, but it also will start to look for correlation with your secondary players. I heard Ben Raza has a new term for this. He calls that the twist, which I thought was good.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
So say you had a Miami stack, and then you say this game was on the main slate, and you decided you were going to have Ferguson as your tight end, and then you were going to have Deebo, and that would be your twist, because it's a pairing. There is in-game synergy there, but it's not a full stack. So I thought that was a good name for it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good name.
That would be Dr. Ben Rossa.
That's right.
Let me see here. What else are we missing? Have you uploaded? We still have 13 minutes. We got a lot of time.
I just put in my latest crunch. I'm going to probably continue to work on it as we're doing the show, but I did get something in there. So that is a new evolution for me. I have progressed to the point of getting some lineups in early, so I don't need to be stressed out about it while we're doing the show.
I have all my lineups in early, but it's going to be a grab bag to see what I actually got. So right. I am stressed, but there's nothing I can do about it. So it's only money, Neil. It's only money.
That's right.
And if it ends up being the right lineup, maybe I won it a whole bunch of times.
That's right.
I don't know. Last time this happened, I cashed everything, including Quince, with the exception of boosters.
Wow.
On DK. So. And I've had other games where I put in my intentional lineups and only gotten 5% back of my buy-ins. So, hey, what do I know? I do know that using these stochastic projections does give you a leg up and has been tremendously helpful for me. The other thing that is helpful is realizing that overlay. So OwnersBox, for their main slates, they've been running about, I think it's down to about 15% or so overlay. It was like 35% in week one. So what that means is that just there's no lineups in. They're taking in 35% less than what they're paying out. That's what we mean by overlay. So that would be like 35% of the field being dummies like me and uploading a dummy lineup and then just not getting any points, right? That would be silly. You'd want to play in those contests. That's what they're doing over there at OwnersBox. So you give their site a try. If you come in through the link below us here in the YouTube description, make sure you come in through the link. It'll pop up and say, they want a promo code. You don't need a promo code if you've come in through our link. But once you put in $10, they're going to give you a $5 Lightning contest ticket, a $5 regular contest ticket, and then a deposit match with your first deposit up to $500. That is a 4% release drip. So play through that 25 times and that all becomes yours, no expiration on it. And then you're also going to get a promo code that gets you 30 days of the Stochastic Max Sim package. It's $199 per month. We're giving you 30 days, 1 week free. Check that out through the description here below us. And we have OwnersBox centric contest. And the fun thing over there, no defense, Superflex. And our Sims handle Superflex. Pretty cool stuff.
I feel like our Sims give people a huge advantage, and we don't talk about that enough. How like you sign up for OwnersBox, you get access to these stochastic Sims, and then you're just so far ahead of the field because most people on OwnersBox, like there aren't a lot of tools out there for OwnersBox. So I feel like having the stochastic Sims is just such a huge leg up. Now I haven't crushed on OwnersBox to be clear. I've basically broken even almost every. I think I'm up slightly on OwnersBox relative to, but like most slates on DraftKings, I'm losing money. Like that's just how it goes. Like if you're not winning, you're usually going to be losing money. OwnersBox, I've been breaking even or like winning slightly just using our Sims. The combination of having Sims and then also the overlay is just it's so much softer than anywhere else.
All righty. Let's see here. There was a question they had for you, but it is Neil. Who is your rogue touchdown pick today?
Yeah, it's a tough one for rogue touchdown picks just because the star power is so like these offenses are so condensed. I guess it would have to be like Schoonmaker is probably the best I can give you, unless I can give you a defense. I feel like the Niners defense is live to score a touchdown here, despite all of the stats of these offenses not giving up a ton in terms of turnovers. I love the fact that Dak threw 15 interceptions in 12 games last year. I think that is still like against this defense, there's a strong possibility of more turnovers than the Cowboys have had so far this year. They've had a soft schedule. This is a really tough matchup. So I'm playing a good amount of these defenses. They're both coming in under 20% owned currently. So I guess I would probably say one of the defenses scoring a touchdown is probably the most off the wall thing, other than Luke Schoonmaker. I do think is a pretty good bet. Dallas likes to get their tight ends into the end zone, so I think they are pretty good bets. I don't love any of the Niners guys who were active last week running some routes. Like now with Juwan Jennings back, I assume he just steps into that third wide receiver role. He's another one that you could throw into that bucket who's getting about 10% ownership. But there's nobody that I feel great about. I'm playing guys like Jordan Mason at 7% ownership. He's, I think, got outs. Like if this game ends up getting out of hand, clearly he can get in the game, or obviously an injury. He's, I think, second in line there for the Niners. But there's nobody this isn't a game where I feel really good about anybody. Like I felt better about, and this is saying something, I felt better about Equinemius St. Brown than I feel about any of the off the beaten path guys in this game, because he was at least on the field over 50% of the running routes over 50% of the time. He didn't do anything in that game, but he was at least out there. These guys just don't have the same kind of opportunities.
All right. Malcolm Revamp with the 199 super chat says, who are we playing in the flex on DK and FanDuel cash? I believe the answer would be Purdy for sure on both.
Yep.
And then Dak for me on DK. I think you could look at Pollard on FanDuel. And then I want CMC in the captain spot. But for those of you playing, I wrote it down because it's frozen on my other computer now. But there's my cash lineup. So it is both quarterbacks in the flex, Gallup, both kickers, and then I've got CMC as the captain. So if you're taking me on in DK, play that lineup. Just don't play that one against me, because then we lose the rake, or you have to ask for it back. Or every now and then I get a little notification saying it's refunded it to me, but I don't get that notification every time I have actual identical ties on DK. So I don't know how accurate it is. And then it's hard to go find in their history log to see if it's really coming back or not, because why make anything easy? Why do sports books, DFS sites, why do they make it so hard to look at your past history?
Yeah, because they don't want you to know how you're doing, because most people are not winning. Rico Dowdle, I'm kind of considering as somebody who
a Neil's nobody, perhaps.
Like he's 3,000, so like he needs to do a little bit to pay off. Like probably a single touchdown, maybe on this slate it could be really low scoring, in which case maybe a single touchdown does pay it off. But we've seen it even with Tony Pollard fully healthy. Rico Dowdle has been somewhat involved. Last week though, I mean, he only ran 3 routes last week. That's not ideal. He only had 3 rushing attempts, whereas Deuce Vaughn actually had 8 rushing attempts last week. So maybe Deuce Vaughn is the better bet, but I think Rico Dowdle feels likelier to score a touchdown at least.
All right. They said, which kicker are we rolling with? Well, tomorrow night we get brother versus brother. The Carlson brothers will be going against each other. Tonight,
I didn't know they were brothers.
They are. We've got two rookies tonight. So we have Brandon Aubrey. Well, he's an NFL rookie. Remember, we talked about this guy. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Birmingham Stallions in the USFL. He went 32 of 37. That's 86.4% from the field in his 2 seasons in the XFL. He missed just 2 of his 59 point after touchdown attempts. So far this season, he's 13 of 13 from the field. I don't think he has any from beyond 50, if memory serves, or maybe he has 1 from beyond 50 and 1 from beyond 45, but he hasn't really gone for distance. He did miss 1 of his 10 PATs. Jake Moody, drafted in the 3rd round. He's perfect, 9 for 9 on field goal attempts and 14 of 14 from on extra pointers. He did make one from 59 yards out when he was at the University of Michigan last year. Just saying, he's got a leg. I would still lean towards Brandon Aubrey, usually give the home field kicker the bit of the advantage. These guys are both rookies, so this will be Aubrey's his 3rd game in the stadium and the first for Moody, so it's not really an advantage, though he did have his preseason and his practices in Levi Stadium. But I would lean a little bit more towards Aubrey. Tomorrow night, go with Daniel Carlson over Anders, who is his younger brother, who was drafted this year. I've got all the kicker news.
I love that you actually research the kickers. I've never even thought about research. It's kind of like, yeah, they look okay. And that's one that I'm just going to look at our single game tool to figure out which kickers to play. I'm not going to look into the stats, but I love that you do it.
Yes. Well, kickers are kind of the last bastion on Showdown. They aren't on OwnersBox. They aren't on DK. They aren't on FanDuel anymore. So it's kind of the single game slate that we got to look at them. So
that's true. Very true.
They need their moments, and it's easier to look at 2 than it is to look at 20. So now, does it matter? No, because if somebody gets 2 drives stalled out in the red zone, that's great. As opposed to, hey, my offense scored 5 touchdowns and I got 5 extra points, right? So a lot of variance here when it comes to the kickers. 3 minutes to go. So if you guys do not have your lineups in, get those in now. I want to remind everybody about the Stochastic podcast channel, because it's important to note we have 2 podcast exclusive episodes each week. That is one coming out that talks about, I believe it's the sim tool. And then the other one that's on Wednesday. And then on Fridays, you get Greg and Laffy talking about the late slate. And
I think it's single game and 3 max.
Oh, single game and 3 max. You're right. Single game and 3 max. Because I mostly listen to the podcast because I don't get a chance to watch as much YouTube during the day, when I kind of have to work. So I like the Greg Sims podcast, or a YouTube show that he does with Laffy, and then those other 2 exclusive ones are the ones I try to listen to first. Plus, Lindy's leans like some locks over there on the Odds Shopper channel. So we have all sorts of podcast channels out there. You can find those. I'll drop the link for that into the chat, but pretty much everywhere that podcasts are found. But we have the main channel, which is the Stochastic one. We break out NFL and MLB when that starts back up. And then, of course, we have can I find the podcast channel? And then, of course, we have the Odd Shopper channel, which you'll want to look at. I apologize. I will tweet that out after this show. Oh, here we go. All podcasts. Oh, of course, stochastic.com/podcast. I could have just typed that in myself, but there it is into the chat. And so pretty much everything but the live before lock goes out on those podcast feeds. So well worth it. Whew. Ryan Nelson says, oh, that's the one I don't listen to. Well, I've been in Florida, so I can't really do a whole lot with it. But Dr. Ben Rosa and Matty G every week do Betting University. I believe they're now doing 2 episodes of that because it's so popular. And you want to listen to that right away because they get those early lines for you. And then I think they're looping back with a second, just a shorter one, just to hit what is still available. Because it's all about getting those early opportunities these days, because otherwise if there's an injury or something, you're racing to get the book before the line goes down. You've got like 30 seconds, whereas when lines are first posted at the beginning of the week, you've probably got about 12 to 24 hours. So check that out. All right, Neil, we are at lock. Would you like to end the show as the producer and analyst while I am just the host, kicking back, doing nothing?
Yeah, that's right. I am the producer here, so I will end the show for us. Thank you guys very much for watching. EMac said it, but hit the like button if you haven't already done so. We don't ask for it very often during these shows. We're focused on the content, but always appreciate if you hit the like button. And yeah, good luck tonight.